Welcome to Coach's Corner Podcast by Well at Humana, where we talk all things health and fitness with an authentic, informative, and real-world lens. Our goal is to help guide you in your journey to live well. Whether it's your first time here or we're on your favorites list, we want to thank you for tuning in to Season 2.
Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Coach's Corner. This week, we are talking about social media and trustworthy sources you can turn to in your New Year's resolution. I'm your host, Dana, and I also have hosts Amy and Haley with me in the studio. Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hello. Are you guys ready to do a little deep dive into social media?
So ready.
We are ready.
I think first, probably where we should start off, just because it's a pretty broad topic that we're talking about with influencers and fitness and on social networks, that we probably should identify what would be deemed an influencer. So Haley's looked this up for us. So Haley, can you kind of lay the foundation of who an influencer is and what they do on social channels?
Yeah, there's going to be, different influencers with different expertise. So think of any industry that you particularly like or an interest you have, and there's going to be an influencer in that realm. Here's the definition that I found. The power to affect the purchasing decisions of others because of his or her authority, knowledge, position, or relationship with his or her audience, or a following in a distinct niche with whom he or she actively engages. The size of the following depends on the size of his or her topic of the niche. So for fitness, particularly, like if you are scrolling, you're seeing someone that maybe is pushing you to purchase a particular supplement, that's a purchasing power, or maybe it's someone that has a large following just because of the style of training that they're doing. That's kind of how I would define it in the fitness world.
And even with that, even if they're not pushing you to particularly buy something that's theirs, like if they have a large enough audience, they're getting paid by other companies to not even push their product, but like get it out there, get it seen. So that's another way too, that it might not just be like direct sales.
It's using their platform.
100%. So from your all's point of view, and I'll start by saying this is a complete opinion conversation, not a lot of facts on this one, but just through our own experiences is we've had quite a few years collectively in the fitness industry. I would say upwards of 25 years combined with all of us. So, Amy, what are some of the pros and cons of fitness on social media? Haley and Amy are probably more on social media than most of our team because it's a part of their job. Also, both of them very much enjoy it. So, Amy, what would you say some of the pros and cons are?
Yeah, I will say I do love Instagram, and social media does get a lot of hate, and there obviously is that side of it for sure. I love it. I love the entertainment part of it. I also love like the information, but over time, especially within my industry, I've gotten pretty good at like weeding out what is legitimate information and what is not. And I think that can be a con of someone not in the industry or someone just looking for tips or information or education, and like might not be able to distinguish someone credible with degrees versus like someone that just has a good body and starts pushing supplements. So I think that's a big thing to think about, like, expertise versus someone that's just doing it. That's like a big thing to look out for.
Yeah, I think even, a pro of it is when I was coming up in the industry, like, yes, my background is higher education, but I did learn a lot from different experts, from research studies and articles that were on the internet. But at that time, like, I guess I'm showing my age, but social media was just hitting the ground, and it wasn't a place where there was a wealth of knowledge. And now people have a wealth of knowledge at their fingertips at all times. Like, for me, it was more like YouTube, different articles that were published in different magazines, as well as like research articles that I learned all of my information on, and I had to go out and search that particular topic. If I was looking at how to strength train. Like, I had to go search for that. If I was looking at different research topics around nutrition, I had to go find that. So I think that's definitely a pro, is there's so much more knowledge readily available for you. I would say the con is shifting through fact-based versus opinion. And I think that's even harder in the fitness industry to begin with. So when you add social media on top of it, that can cause a real challenge for you.
I do think another pro of social media, though, I do like it can form communities. You can find people in similar situations to you or similar, and I think we have that to go deeper into a little bit later, but it does help you feel connected. And I think it can be inspiring and motivational for people. There's definitely a big con to that we'll get to in a little bit, but like, yeah, it can be inspiring to see someone in your situation doing, this, that, and the other, getting in shape, changing their lifestyle. So I think that can be very positive. It can be kind of defeating to see that too, because you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes or like what they're really going through on the back end. Are they struggling with anything mentally? Like, how hard is this journey for them? Like, you're just seeing those, a person standing there, maybe 300 pounds, and then they snap their fingers, and then they're 150 pounds and they're in their, their little gym things. And you don't know that probably 2 years of hard work and like, the tears and the restrictions and the exercising and the early mornings. And like, you don't see all that on the internet. You see the cute little put your hand in front of the camera and then I'm skinny. Like, and so that's so defeating for someone wanting to go through that process and realizing it's so much harder. So they might give up sooner than, really seeing that struggle and seeing that full journey.
And we've been saying that for a while of like fitness is a long game, right? But maybe social media has like reversed that again and it makes it seem like it's overnight results. Amy and I just shot a little reel for Instagram on a holiday mocktail. So this is kind of timely. It was a 30-second video. It took us 4 hours to prep, put the supplies together, kind of mini storyboard what the kind of end product was going to look like, and then narrate it, add music. So I just think that reiterates that this is a snapshot in time. Something that I struggle with even being in the social media industry is the comparison game and like taking what you see is what it is. But there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that they're prepping to show that glimpse. It's also, social media is your highlight reel of your life. So people are posting like the best and brightest posts about themselves. So just what I try to tell myself is to stay mindful of that. And I actually look to follow people that keep it real and show the behind the scenes type of things. I know Dana and I follow similar people in that like maybe they show a flexing photo and then you slide right and it's like them bloated in real life. Like, I appreciate those because sometimes it's hard to remind yourself that these are like highlights of people's lives. So if they can do that for me, it's like even better.
I think you also have to, because what Haley says is right. Like, I used to not follow that type. I think like as I've progressed throughout what I appreciate in fitness and health industry, my tastes have changed. So like who I follow has evolved. And that's what I think you need to be mindful of. Like, if you're someone, I say this all the time, but if you're someone that has a 4-year-old and just gave birth to a newborn and you're 35, maybe you should not be following or gathering inspiration from someone that's 23 with no kids. You are not remotely in the same category of life. And some of that is not doable for you right now. And I think like, but that can also be a perk with finding a community of like new moms interested in fitness. Like, that should be more along the kind of guidelines or direction where you could find yourself a community that's supportive along with new ideas to implement and something that's new to your life. And I think that's the biggest difference is like what I've evolved into is following people that really align with who I am now, and not maybe who I was 10 years ago when I was competing. That's all I seen in my feed was like bodybuilding, people that look absolutely incredible. But it's so interesting to see like those people. I followed them a long time ago, so every now and again the algorithms will let it pop up that they're still there, and so that's been 10 years ago for me. So maybe not quite 10, but almost. But now I see them 10 years later, and their profile has evolved as well. Now they're not competing anymore. They're doing more of a balancing act now. So like I follow someone that was on the cover of 14 magazines, and big time. You're talking about Muscle Hers, you're talking about big time cover girl, all this stuff. And now she's in her 40s, still looks amazing, by the way, but she's done with the crap. She's done. She already sacrificed herself to be who everyone else wanted her to be. She's cut her hair off like 3 times. She has tons of tattoos now. She's still gorgeous. She's 40, like 42. She has put on weight since she was like 25, okay? But like, as you should. But she shows like, and she's still into fitness, but she looks a little bit different. But you can tell through her posts and like just the realness, she's so much happier. Like, she would talk about what she would do for those shoots, like the diet she would do like 14 days leading up, the reduction in water, like just the manipulation of your body to look like that. But that's what everyone sees at the supermarket when they're looking at that magazine, like, oh my God, how does anyone get like that? The person there isn't even like that. So that's actually social media at you all the time, right? You used to just see it in the supermarket, but now you see that day after day after day. And I think it's important to recognize that like the picture is only the picture.
And even like back to what Haley was saying with like the comparison stuff, I see, because a lot of things like something that's really popular on Instagram right now is those like what I eat in a day posts, and someone will go through and they'll post their meals throughout the day, or like a day in my life and stuff like that. And so comparing yourself to what someone else is eating during the day or how they're working out, like just because if you ate exactly how someone else ate and you did their exact same workouts, you still would not have their exact body. There's so many other factors that go into it that people don't think about. They think, oh, someone on the internet has this great body, I'm going to do exactly what they do. I'm going to take the supplements that they take, and that's how they sell things, and I'm going to do their workouts. I'm going to buy their plans, and I'm going to have this body. And it really doesn't work like that.
No.
You gotta try out your own things.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to like the long game, and that fitness is hard. Like weight loss is hard. It takes a while. So I
don't think anyone wants to know that too. Yeah. And I think it's like important that you just said that. Like, this isn't always fun. And the people even doing it that are like quote unquote successful at it, they always don't want to do it.
Yeah.
It's not like, sometimes it's just downright grit that you just do it. And like, I mean, when you look at these people with 6-pack abs or whatever, not to mention we don't know what they're doing, but they might not have had a drink of alcohol for a year. They might never have a cheat meal. So you have to ask yourself, are you willing to do that to look like that? And I think that's where people don't go down that road.
So what people do you all follow that are like emanate what you would like to do?
Well, it's all over the place. Kind of what Dana was saying earlier. Like, I follow people in my stages of life. So, like, when I was in college, I followed, 20-year-old, skinny little, college athlete, whatever. And, like, over time, as that was less and less me, and that was still on my feed, it was really, like, sad. It was just like, oh, man. Like, it just really brought me down, like, to see, like, these bodies. And, like, even these bodies that I saw repeatedly on my Instagram screen, I didn't see in real life anywhere. Like, I had this little box of, like, perfection that I'm seeing and, like, trying to measure myself with. And that's not even, like, the majority of the real world. So I had, like, a big unfollow, a mass unfollow a few years ago, and then I just started following accounts of people that look like me, people that were around my same age or older, to get like, you know, to an idea of like what's to come, how to stay healthy. And that has been really helpful, especially like a couple years ago when I had my surgery for Crohn's. I followed a lot of pages of people around my age going through, you know, the similar surgery, similar situation. That was really helpful to have a community around that. And then, you know, as I moved past that, I kind of like unfollowed those because I'm like, oh, I'm kind of, you know, I'm healthy. I'm past that. I want other things on my feed. So that's the other thing too. Like, your Instagram feed and your algorithm is fluid. So like something that you're really interested in and passionate about right now, and you're searching and your algorithm is feeding you, that might not be the same months from now or a year from now. And keep that in mind. And if there's pages that you are following, even if you followed them for years, if like they make you feel a certain way that's not good seeing them on your page, you can just unfollow them. Like, you don't have to see that. You can block them. Like, you can choose what you are taking in. And I think that's the cool part of Instagram. You kind of can curate your feed. And so some pages that I am following now, like some specific ones, my personal favorite, I really like Squat University. That's one that we talked about. I think it's just good information. I really like how it's presented. It's very entertaining. Sometimes they're funny. Sometimes they're, you know, joint clips together of other things. So I like how it's presented, and I also think that it is good factual information. So that's one of my favorite ones for like fitness. For nutrition, I like Dr. Mark Hyman. He's he does a lot with the Cleveland Clinic, and I like a more holistic approach to nutrition. So that's the kind of stuff that I follow. And then just for like kind of fun fitnessy things, I like Kaiser Fit. I know Haley said it's kind of controversial, but I like her workouts. I like her style. Just like, it's kind of entertaining, and she does a lot of like balance and mobility stuff that I find interesting. There's another one, Little T Fitness. She's just really cool, like gymnast type stuff. Not necessarily workouts that I'm gonna be doing, but it's cool to see on the feed, like what the body can do. And then I also just follow a lot of, I can't even think of like specific pages off the top of my head, but just like people with my similar body type that are just balanced, generally healthy. I don't have kids, but they might have a kid or two, you know, and sprinkle that in. They might show their workouts. They might show their, you know, what kind of clothes they wear to flatter their body style. They might show some of what they eat in a day, but they're not like super fitnessy supplements, just because like that's not really where I am right now. So that's kind of how I approach my social media.
Mine's been like really fluid over the years. I would say, you know, when social media first started, like my whole feed was probably fitness, like the whole thing. But I was at a period of my life where I was obsessed with fitness. Like, it was something that was my primary goal, my primary focus. And it was competitive in both the bodybuilding world and the CrossFit world. And I enjoyed that. Then now it's just very fluid. Like, those no longer show up on my feed as much. There's a few that are still around that I follow. More or less, it's a lot of dogs. There's a lot of dogs in my feed now. But mostly it's the dogs and fashion is what is in my feed. But I would say for the ones I follow, from a nutrition standpoint, I've always had very much like a performance type of nutrition style. And I really like Dr. Lane Norton. His handle is BioLane. For me, like, he can be controversial to people, but not in how he's educating. It's more like he will go against the people, and he's not afraid to debate, which I really like in science. Actually, is like, let's look at the facts. So he has his PhD in nutritional sciences. But he breaks it down pretty easily to follow for the general public on different things around nutrition. I also moved more to I like Move U. It's literally move and then the letter U. That's more from like a PT perspective, a physical therapist perspective. He also makes light of physical therapy, and it's fun and it's creative, and you actually they do a lot of drawings on the body, so you get to see the muscular system, so it's pretty educational. And for me, like where I am, it's more about staying healthy, keeping me on the floor, meaning keeping me training. And like I think it's really insightful for me now in that phase of working out, is that's what I want to see. But everything else, it's kind of like Amy said, it's been fluid in that the people that I no longer hit the like button on or things like that, it doesn't come up anymore. So for me, it's kind of balanced itself out depending on like what I like or what I have searched. So those are two specific ones around nutrition and movement. From a fitness aspect, it's mainly people that are real, that are really going to show you a real snippet of their day to day. I still follow quite a few CrossFit people, but it's funny now they're having children, so they're showing like their workouts with children and things like that. And even though I don't have kids, like I find that super inspirational, inspiring, and I love that women are taking that stance and teaching like good overall health to their babies. So for me, I love seeing that. So it's a positive.
I totally agree. I actually thought of that when Amy said that. Is I think seeing that on my feed has allowed me to believe that I could do it. My mom was very active when she had all of us, and I've had that kind of role model my whole life. But I mean, if you would have asked me in college, I probably would have said I don't want kids, because fitness was my life. That gave me purpose and made me sane, and so I couldn't imagine giving that up. So seeing people not give it up, but maintain that lifestyle with children, being pregnant, has just like fired me up and made me realize that can still be, I can have both. I don't have to give anything
really
up.
still highly competitive.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my God.
Yeah. So it's awesome.
And I would say, just jumping off of what Dana said, Real is definitely someone I try to follow, but I think it's important for everyone to have some objectivity to their feed. Like, it's great. I love emotion. Like, I'm an emotional person, and I want to see the stuff that is real and raw, but you also have to have a good mix of, like, just someone telling you the facts. So, of course, I'm going to plug Exos Education. If you're looking for just, like, different types of movement standards of how to incorporate different exercises in your routine, they're a great one.
There's somebody that's great for, like, just baseline knowledge that is research-based, factual. It doesn't have all the glitz and glam, but it's so well put together, and it comes from, like, highly educated people.
And they're not long videos either. Like, you're going to get it in 10 to 15 seconds. And then I have no affiliation. Like, this is just a plug shamelessly, but Katie Wilder-Thomas was a mentor to me in college, and she's a mom to two, and her husband is a strength coach for the Atlanta Falcons, and she just, like, posts real and raw workouts. It might be a 20-minute workout at 5:30 a.m. before her kids wake up, and, like, it's just a gritty, like, I'm going to do this, and that's the kind of stuff I appreciate, because it's real. It's not going to be something that's going to make me compare myself to her, like, oh, I need to work harder. It's just, like, her showing, like, what her day looks like. So I enjoyed that content. But speaking of which, I want to dive into, like, the certifications and credentials that maybe someone should look for. So we've given you a few handles that you can start with to follow, but if you're on your own feed, like, scrolling through people that you may enjoy, like, what are some things that they should look for when considering following them?
Yeah, I think this one can be really difficult. I think it can be really hard. Like, and it's something that, for me, being in the industry, and all of us, like, in the industry I've been in it 14 plus years now, having higher education, like, I used to get so frustrated when the initial surge of, like, fitness influencers came about, because it was a lot of people that have no form of higher education, no form of knowledge around physiology, kinesiology, biomechanics, like, none of that stuff that we all went to school for in depth. Like, but at the same time, my dad asked me all the time, like, why don't you do that? You could be making so much money off this. And for me, it's just not, it's not for me. Like, I'm pretty private. I want to get in, do my workout, and leave. Like, I don't even talk to a whole lot of people. Like, so I don't want to stop and take photos. I don't want to do that. But I got to give kudos to people that do. And I think you both can testify. Like, you spent 4 hours on a 30-second reel. So it does go in. There's a lot of work that goes into it. So, I don't want anyone listening to this thinking that we're knocking this, because that's not the case. But what we do want to do is advise you. And in saying that, some of the higher education, nutrition specifically, like, everyone thinks they're a nutritionist. Everything that worked for me can work for you. And the metabolic system can be confusing. A lot of it's just math, but a lot of it's not. And I truly believe, like, higher education is really necessary in terms of nutrition as well as years of experience. So a registered dietitian, someone that has a PhD in nutrition, someone that talks more on, like, the cellular level. There's so much information out there in nutrition that it's just so overwhelming for people. It really is. And it makes it complex when it doesn't necessarily have to be. Even though it is a complex topic, or subject rather, there is some baseline that you will lose weight if you do this. And I think higher education is definitely something that I would really look for when looking specifically in nutrition, or somebody that talks in a more well-rounded approach rather than just one specific course of action is what I would kind of stay away from, because most of them are really hard to follow long term or for your life. If something isn't like, can I do this for the rest of my life? If the answer is no, most likely you'll be in the same situation that you're currently in later on down the road. Whether you lose a whole bunch of weight, if you can't follow it forever, it's probably going to come back. So that would be my advice for nutrition specifically.
As far as personal training goes, would you say the same thing?
Personal training, I would say strength training altogether. I'm an ex-strength coach, so I'm going strength coach all the way. Most of those have a master's degree in either exercise physiology, kinesiology, exercise science, biomechanics. So, I mean, that I'm biased to that. That is where I'm going for methodology. However, there's other people that know things outside of that. So just some PT certifications, like, that are more well known, just so you know, is ACE, so ACE, NASM, which is NASM. A CSCS is a pretty well known certification that takes quite a bit of studying. So they're going to have some baseline knowledge when it comes to that, and not just maybe a weekend course that gives them some letters behind their name.
And also, to keep those certifications active, you have to renew them, and you have to do a certain amount of continuing education too. So they're also staying on top of what's current and stuff like that. And I will say, though, like, we talked a lot about, like, performance and biomechanics and big words and strength coaching and stuff, but for the average person that literally moves zero already, like, maybe a 5-minute walk is all you are doing, you're not going to do a whole lot of harm by finding a foo-foo influencer that does little at-home workouts.
Start there.
If that's getting you moving, that's great.
Yep.
Like, I'm not going to knock on that.
Yep.
Like, sure, if you're trying to be a bodybuilder and you are trying to do a fluffy, at-home, like, core workout every day, and, like, that, like, those goals don't align. But if you are literally just trying to move, and you find someone that is relatable and fun, and you enjoy watching them, and you enjoy listening to them, and you enjoy moving with them and doing that movement, that's great. Like, if someone is just getting you moving, they put on little cute dance classes on YouTube, or you're moving your body, and that is more than you were already doing. And that's not going to hurt you. But I think when you get into, heavy weights and strength and stuff like that, that's when you do want to look for those things. But if someone's just going to get you moving.
Exactly. And their taste is going to evolve too. So start there. Like, if that person gets you moving, great. But when you get to if you want to build upon that, please don't look at accounts that stand on a Bozu ball and do an overhead press with a barbell and think, that's so neat, I want to do that. Most likely, that's not who you should be following.
Yeah.
So that's the type of stuff that I'm looking at that, like, so for a while, I think it's way better now, but so many influencers were like, it was clickbait, right? It was things that look cool. I think that's gotten much better.
Well, yeah, but like there's the wow factor to it. Like if I see someone doing that on a video, I'm gonna click on it, I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah.
But that's not who I'm taking a fitness advice from. But I think back to your point of like, what do you look for? I like how you said look for people that are teaching rather than showing off. Like, are they just doing ridiculous things and people are watching and they're getting all these views and all these followers because it's wild? I mean, that's fine to follow if you like looking at that, but don't like use that as your strength regimen.
And ask yourself, like, what are your goals in following this person? I liked, like, these questions, maybe, like, in your head, not legitimately, like, making a checklist, but are these people inspiring you or making you angry? Are you comparing yourself to them rather than being inspired by their content? Do you have mutual friends and followers? I like that question because it helps you, like, if the same like-minded people are following this person, it signals, like, green flags rather than red flags. What emotions do you feel when you see their posts?
That's the big one. Take some self-awareness.
Yeah.
Ask that.
Yeah.
But, like, if you're, like, kind of put off, but, like, it's not really noticeable to anybody, but if you're like, ugh, and just, like,
Right.
maybe pause and
Yeah.
think about, like, do I keep them in my feed? So I like that one.
It's something to think about too, like that I was talking about when we were like prepping this is like your diet. Like we think of diet as like just what you eat. But really, I think of diet as like what you're putting in your body. So like, yes, that's food, but that's also what are you putting in your mind? What are you looking at? And we spend so much time on our phones and scrolling and even mindlessly. So like, what are you even putting into your brain subconsciously? Like, what do you want to be filling just your body with? What kind of messages do you want to be sending yourself? What kind of stuff do you want to be scrolling through? You know, do you want to get valuable, good information? Do you want to see people that are doing real things that are inspiring you? Or are you just filling your feed with stuff that's like depressing you and kind of pissing you off? And like, that affects you. That affects your mind. Even if you don't, even if consciously you're like, that does, you know, it's so, I understand what social media is. It's entertainment, it's whatever. But like, you are intaking so much of it. So being aware of that.
You're seeing it, right? Like they do say the mind is the most powerful tool. And like Amy said, I catch myself all the time just like mindlessly, like not even doing anything, like just opening it. And I know everyone does this and just scrolls. So like make sure it's something that like doesn't have to be like this big motivation all the time, but that is at least bringing a positive to you in the long term.
And when you go through the people that maybe aren't bringing a positive into your life, like let's talk about some ways that you can change that. Number one, we've already said you can unfollow them. Like you have control over what you're seeing, bottom line. One thing I did recently was I took a break from social media. Like I deleted the Instagram app. I didn't delete my account, but I just deleted it from my phone. So I didn't have the urge to open it and access it. And it was actually really freeing, like to just like take a pause. So, I mean, you could consider doing that for a week, 2 weeks at a time. Another really cool thing that your phone does, if you have an iPhone, I'm sure Android does it too, is like you can set daily timers. So if you only want to spend an hour on it.
I've heard that. So here's the interesting thing about that. If you set like your hour timer, once you hit it, like the screen pops up with like a time thing, and it's like, oh, you've reached your limit, and then it's like you're like you can ignore for the day, or you can like give yourself another minute.
Yeah.
And so I was just like extending by a minute, and like and like I did it for like a month, and then I ended up just turning it off. But it was very interesting because it's like once that timer goes off, you're like, I've been on here for an hour.
Right.
Oh my gosh, like that just went by
self-awareness.
Like that. Yeah, it was very good for self-awareness, and I am more conscious now. Like after that, like oh my gosh, I really do spend a lot of time. And also when I was doing that, when I knew I only had an hour, I was like trying to only do like quality things on there. Like I wasn't mindlessly scrolling. I was like, okay, I have my hour. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna look at the pages that I like. I'm gonna check my page. I'm gonna creep on the people I need to. Like I was getting efficient with it. It took away some of my mindless scrolling, but even then, I still do that. That one didn't totally work for me, but it was good for self-awareness.
Yeah, it didn't work for at Humana's social media manager either. I had that hour time limit. I'd be like, oh, I have to make this post today. And you're like, yeah, that didn't work.
It's wild, though. The other day, I noticed it at work. Like, I hadn't got hardly any steps. I was in like 7 meetings that day. So after I trained in the evening, I was like, I'm just going to walk on a treadmill for like 25 minutes. I did an incline. It was like I wasn't going fast. It was just moving, right? So like, I'm just going to look at reels. Oh my God, that 25 minutes was faster than any 25 minutes ever. So like, to me, it was like, oh my God, like it goes by so fast. So I can see where, you know how you get your like
Screen report.
weekly report. I'm like, God, that's embarrassing.
Mine's like 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Like,
really?
Not-
Well,
Wait,
like-
so 8 hours? a
Yeah,
day?
like, yeah.
Whoa.
My average is way up. But also, like, I have Polly's, like, my dog has an Instagram account, and, like, I make her little videos, and I get edit her little pictures, and I spend a lot of time, and that's collective social media. That's not
Okay, that's a work day, ma'am.
I
Yeah.
know.
Was this a full-time
It's
job?
gone down. It's gone down.
Okay.
I think I'm around 5 now, but it was getting up there for a minute.
One thing I do want to say too is like to work out outdoors and to be intentional with your time. We talked about this, and I think just being outdoors, getting away from the phone, like it allows you to just get this panoramic view of the world. You're constantly, I heard this on an EXO speaker series, that you're like constantly looking at this screen, right? Like either your laptop or you're scrolling on your phone, and just like taking a moment to like look out the window and see everything around you. It does something for your mind, and I have to believe it does something for your workout too, by just like taking a pair of dumbbells outside, or
I love an outside workout.
just doing a
Love
body.
it.
Take your body out there. You can do so much with your body. So I think that's important. Like maybe working that in once a week and just seeing if it gives you a reset or like feels refreshing.
Yeah.
I agree there, and like that's what I used to love about CrossFit too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I wouldn't use my phone for music because they were just bumping in there.
Yeah.
So it was like an hour and a half. Again, that's when I was training like pretty intensely. Is like nothing but just me
Mm-hmm.
and whatever I was doing.
Yeah.
And it was very intentional.
Yeah.
And I miss that because I use my phone for music now, so it's still like always with me. But something that I really try to do is like if I'm working out or whatever, it's just by me, but I do flip it upside down. But then my damn headphones keep telling me like my Outlook emails are coming through, text messages, so I may just turn that off too. But
Yeah.
it's different.
It is. It's the best hour of my day when my phone is completely off.
I would say still, like, I do think we've moved even more into a virtual world, right? From COVID happening, now half of our work is more than virtual. But I would still say there are huge benefits in, like, having a personal trainer or coach or nutrition coach or registered dietitian in person.
Mm-hmm.
Still a major benefit if that's something that you can supplement in your life, even more so than like a workout plan. There's something to be said. For me, I even told our coaches the other day, I've already mentioned, like, I've been training for 20 years. I told our coaches the other day, like, in the beginning of the year, I plan to work out with each of them, meaning like pay them for their service, and train like a session with each of them, just to find like some motivation again, and have someone like push me in training, because I'm having trouble pushing myself. I'm still doing it, but it's very much like going through the motions. So that's something that I think I'll leave with you here is like, I think social media is a great informative platform if you follow people that are motivating you in the right way. But I still will say I don't think anything comes close to working with someone in person. And like if you are someone that is a member at Humana or is a Humana employee or works downtown Louisville, like we're open to the general public, is like come in and do an assessment. Like I think in the beginning of the year you may find yourself like on the fence of trying to do that. The assessment's complimentary, and then a coach can talk to you about your goals. Like I would still highly recommend that piece.
And we hold our coaches to the same high standards that we just went through as far as like following on social media. They're going to be, certified and degreed, and I think that sets us apart as a facility. And then Amy and I realized that content creation is definitely a skill.
Yeah.
She's much better at it than me, I think.
What? No, you're literally the marketing.
You are just a born influencer.
Oh, jeez.
But I
He's
think
our very own influence.
our coaches may not or may have that skill. Like, it's definitely something that not everyone has. So
Content creation is hard, and yes, like coaching is one skill, and that you train for, you have education for. Content creation is a completely different skill. So, you know, you might love a coach and their Instagram is, they might not even have an Instagram or even
Exactly,
an Instagram
yeah.
tailored to fitness or anything. Like, that's not a prerequisite at all to being an excellent coach. So, you know, if you love a coach or whatever, if you're thinking about training with someone, don't judge them just on their social media platform,
Presence,
because
yeah.
that is not indicative at all of whether they're an excellent coach or not.
absolutely.
It's
The
separate skill
relationship.
sets.
Yeah.
I love that. I think we'll end there because that just hits the nail on the head. Is like content creation is hard. Social media is not for everyone. It can be an exceptional platform and be very informative. Just be aware of who you're following and aware of how you're feeling throughout. So thank you guys for joining as we talked about trustworthy sources you can turn to in the new year.
And make sure to follow Well at Humana on all your social platforms.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Happy holidays.
See ya.